Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Mike Green. I'm one of the owners of 1A Auto. I want to help you save time and money repairing and maintaining your vehicle. I'm going to use my 20+ years experience restoring and repairing cars and trucks like this to show you the correct way to install parts from 1AAuto.com. The right parts installed correctly. That's going to save you time and money. Thank you and enjoy the video.
In this video, we'll be replacing the front brake pads on this 95 Accord, same as any 94 to 97 Accord. Tools you'll need are a flat blade screwdriver, 14, 17, and 18 millimeter sockets with ratchet, and a large C-clamp, and obviously jack and jack stands.
Start on these aluminum wheels by removing the center cap. Next, if you don't have the benefit of air tools, you want to loosen your lug nuts while your car is still on the ground. And then after you loosen the lug nuts, jack it up and support it. You always want to use a jack, and you want to use a jack stand. And then remove the lug nuts and the wheel. And these are 18 millimeter bolts. So now we've gotten the tire off, and you can see I've turned the wheels all the way to the right. And now to remove the caliper, you want to remove 4 bolts. 1, 2, and then inside here, these larger bolts. This one up here, 3, and then its counterpart right down here, 4. These 2 bolts are 14 millimeter. And they actually hold the caliper to this larger bracket. The other 2 bolts are larger. They're 17 millimeter on this car. And after you remove the larger bolts, now your whole assembly will come off kind of the rotor. So now here's your whole caliper assembly, and here are your pads. You can take this larger bracket off your caliper, put your caliper up there, and then your pads just come right out. Once you've removed your caliper and your pads, you want to determine if you can reuse your rotors. There's 3 ways. There's the technical way, which is you measure how thick they are. And I will say if your rotors look very crusty and old, I just replace them. You can see on these rotors, they're actually an aftermarket set of rotors. They look pretty good. They don't look worn down. I can take my finger and kind of run it across, and I don't feel any deep gouges or grooves. I just feel very fine, kind of like record, vinyl record type grooves in it. And you want to check both the face of it and the back side as well. These rotors are fine. I'm going to reuse them. But if you feel like you need to replace your rotor, you're going to want to check out our other videos.
Changing the rotors on these cars requires some more advanced tools, and requires taking apart of the steering knuckle. And for this video, we're going to go back to showing you how to put the pads back on.
You're going to want to take your 2 big bolts, slide it in behind, get the bolts started. Now we'll take those 17 millimeter bolts up, and they probably should be about 70 foot-pounds. I'm just using a nice big 1/2-inch ratchet and pulling good and hard. Okay, and now these brake pads are actually fine. They got a lot of life left on them.
You do want to make sure you check the other side as well, which I did on this car, and both sides, the brake pads, the wear was nice and even. There can be times where one side will look fine and then the other side is worn down more, and you always want to replace both sides at the same time.
This tab here is your wear tab. Okay, and you want to make sure you put this pad on the back side with the wear tab facing up, and that's what when your pads start to wear out, that tab is going to start making that squeaking noise, so you know that you need to replace your brakes. Okay, put that one in, and then this one. And now if you're replacing your pads with new pads, your caliper, this piston is going to work its way out. So what you want to use is a large C-clamp, and okay, now as I tighten, you can see that the piston will go back in to the caliper. Okay, and you need to work the piston all the way back in order to get it down over the new brake pads. Now with your caliper back, you just put it on right on. Okay, and your bolts. Okay, these are 14mm bolts. I'm just going to kind of tighten them up a little bit with my air wrench here. Now I'm going to use my hand ratchet to tighten them all up the rest of the way so I know how tight they are. Never want to use an impact wrench to tighten bolts like that. Because what you can end up doing is breaking those bolts, and obviously on a brake system you don't want any broken bolts. Now we can put the wheel back on. Again, I'm just going to use my impact wrench, tighten them up a little bit. And once you have the car down on the ground, use a nice big wrench. And generally lug nuts you want to tighten up between 75 and 85 foot-pounds. I usually just use a breaker bar and get them tight. And take a cap. Put it back on.
Very important. You want to pump your brakes a bunch of times before you test drive, because when you have pushed the pistons back into the calipers, it'll take a few presses of the brakes for the pistons to work their way out enough to make the brakes effective. So you want to pump your brakes a bunch of times, and then just be very careful when you first test drive the car, because on the first few times you use your brakes, the brakes might not work exactly great until the pistons have worked their way back out. We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.1aauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.